All right, welcome on. We've got a pretty big night in the NBA. The debuts of Anthony Davis and Jimmy Butler with their respective teams, the Mark Williams trade being rescinded, and then career nights for Austin Reeves, Jaden McDaniels, 22 teams in action. So let's get to it, starting off with the Dallas Mavericks, who beat the Houston Rockets 116 to 105. Anthony Davis, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks in 31 minutes, but left the third quarter with a non contact injury. He says he's fine. AD started at the 4, PJ Washington at the 3, so I did change his position to small forward. Clay was at the 2, and then the way that the substitutions worked, Exum and Christie checked in at the about the 6 minute mark for Clay Thompson and Daniel Gafford. So at that point, AD bumped up to the 5, Washington to his natural 4. And then Marshall, he checked in for PJ at the 4 later in the quarter. And then Daniel Gafford, he checked in for AD at the end of the quarter. And then Dinwiddie came in for Kyrie Irving. So that's basically your rotation for the Dallas Mavericks. So I swapped the positions for Washington and Marshall. I am not going to swap Exum and Christie, like make one of them like the small forward or anything. I more or less think that Dante Exum is keeping Caleb Martin's seat warm at the 3. So once that happens, he'll essentially be the 11th man in the rotation, backing up the 1, 2, and 3. Overall, I just like the team's overall lineup construction. I don't hate the Luka deal as much as everyone else. I think a lot of people are selling AD short. Please don't send me death threats like Mavs fans are doing to Nico. Actually, on second thought, do send me death threats. I could use the engagement. Leave your death threats in the comments. Actually, don't do that because I don't want you to get banned or anything, but I just need the daily views. We'll see how long AD is out for. Max Christie, for what it's worth, he is somebody that I may be focusing on in this. 23 points off the bench, 5 of 10 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, career high in free throws made and attempted. Ultimately, he's probably a better player than Klay Thompson, but certainly at 21 years of age, much more amenable to coming off the bench than a future Hall of Famer like Klay. In his 3 games with Dallas, he's averaging 18 points per game. I did some film work on him, watched a few clips from Lakers Film Room. Be sure to check them out. He's good at guarding smaller guards, gets overpowered by stronger ones who can go through him. Great at contesting and closeouts. So he'll have better results versus, say, a Ja Morant or a Donovan Mitchell than he will on a Devin Booker, a bigger guy who can just like kind of go through him. So, going over some of the rating changes that I had for Christie for this video, I did boost his overall by 1 to a 79. I boosted his three balls up by 1. Draw foul rating, this is up by 10 to a 75. 30.7 free throw rate percentage before today's game. 80 shot IQ, that's a plus 5. He does have a 60 true shooting percentage on the season. 90 stamina, which is plus 5, averaging 31 minutes per game as a starter this season. And then based on my film work, I boosted his help defense up 5 points. And then I gave him 2 badges that I didn't. I thought I had them on him, but based on the film work, it just made sense. Challenger and physical finisher. Physical finisher actually is just due to the he's pretty good at converting and one layups and whatnot. And then basically today's 10 free throw attempts was kind of like the motivating factor to look into those figures a little more. But the Challenger, that was based off the film work. I can see this going up to a silver. I just need to get a little more tape on him, see if he keeps performing, and see how good. The Lakers were not a good defensive team this year, but if the Mavericks, I expect them to be a good defensive team, and if he's a big part of that, I can definitely see myself increasing some of the badges. Challenger more so than like on ball, menace, and all the other ones. And then the Rockets, who they beat. Fred Van Vliet was out for this one, so Amen Thompson got the start at point guard. Tari Eason at power forward. Eason only 8 points. He's a great helper on defense, but clearly no match for Anthony Davis in this one. And then Amen, he had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks as a point guard. LOL. Alperen Şengün, he had 30 points. Jalen Green, 24 points, 6 assists. But the team only shot 40% from the field. Bench only shot 4 for 28, 14%. This was including a 1 of 9 performance by Steven Adams, who had 9 offensive rebounds. I'm assuming a lot of those were Andre Drummond styled, like tip-ins that just weren't going in, and he kept back-tapping it. So I'm curious if there was, I didn't watch the game or anything, but I wonder if there was like a possession where he just had like 5 offensive rebounds and in one shot and just couldn't get anything down. Let's head on over to the Lakers, who beat the Pacers 124 to 117. And then the big news for them is the Mark Williams trade. He didn't make his debut. And after the game, it ended up that the trade being rescinded. He failed his physical, so more on this at the end. But LeBron, on top of that, also didn't play. Luka Doncic still is not available. So Austin Reaves had a career night. 45 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals. 14 of 26 from the field, 4 of 9 on threes, 13 of 13 from the free throw line. He absolutely cooked Andrew Nembhard, who fouled out or not fouled out. He had 5 fouls in only 22 minutes in foul trouble the entire night. This was not quite Reeves's high in free throws. He had 15 versus Golden State in their prior game, so similar to Christie, he's somebody I had to go in and examine. And on that end, I initially also had changed his position to shooting guard after the trade, but you'll note that I have both him and Luka at point guard. And the more I thought about it, I think that he's just going to end up being the new Jalen Brunson, like Dallas version of Jalen Brunson, as a super sixth man. He's so good with the ball now that I don't think that you can start him next to Luka and LeBron. Especially since he's not giving really, none of those guys are giving you much defensively, and none of them are. LeBron's probably the best spot-up shooter of the three. I think Austin and Luka definitely need the ball in their hands to do the step-back thing. But going over some of the attribute changes that I had for Reeves in this one, 85 overall, which is a +2. So the most important change for him. Wait a second. Did this not stick? Where is it? Where's his ball handle? There we go. This is a +5 to a 90. He has gone up 5 points in ball handle rating every single season since he's been in the NBA for me. He's 31% of his possessions are pick and rolls, I want to say. And then his foul draw rate, this was also a +5. He's been pretty good at drawing fouls ever since he came into the league. But he's up from last season at a 32.7 free throw rate percentage. Free throw attempt or free throw to field goal, however you call that stat. It's so stupid on Basketball Reference. His steal rate +3 to a 65. Offensive consistency up to an 85. He's got a 1.5 offensive box plus minus entering the game, so it's probably like a 2 or something after this big performance. And then the badges, float game I gave him a silver. He's essentially doubled his floater rate since last season, taking 2 per game. Deadeye, this is up to a silver. He's doubled his rate of contested threes. He had a couple nice step backs in this one. Physical finisher, this is also up to a silver. He's increased his and-1 rate since last year. And then versatile visionary, I gave him a bronze, as he's legitimately like a point guard. It's not often that you see players who are able to develop into point guard since coming into the league, especially when they're undrafted, but Austin has put in the work, and I definitely wanted to recognize him for this update. We'll see how everything works for the Lakers once Luka gets incorporated. Might be some role changes. And then Gabe Vincent, he was also solid in this one. He had 12 points and 7 assists. He's been better. I forgot to check his stat line, but he started slow. Obviously was hurt all of last year and really struggled during that time. And then he was a kind of a slow starter this year, but he's been better over the last month. So he's somebody whose rating I'm going to definitely look into. I expect him to be the starter once Luka is healthy, because they need another guard. They need somebody who can defend, and he's easily like their best perimeter defender on the team. And obviously he started games with like the Miami Heat and whatnot. They signed him with like the intention of playing him big minutes. he makes the the big money. So he's essentially like another version of Avery Bradley who played with the Lakers a couple of years ago. Um, yeah, so that's where that falls into line. I expected that the Lakers were going to sign Lonnie Walker the fourth because they could have offered him like the biggest role, but because they got back Dalton Connect after the trade got rescinded, they no longer need Lonnie Walker. I expect he'll probably have to sign with another team. Yeah, kind of disappointing for him. I thought this was like an easy hole for him. Um, but they did sign Jordan Goodwin to a two-way deal, and he made his Laker debut in this one with 10 points, 4 rebounds, and played 24 minutes. So for Jordan Goodwin's career, who by the way, I did like a full video on him for as like an example of like how bad 2K is with their player ratings and whatnot, and they've since like rectified a lot of it. They had him like he's a defensive player, but he had like a 60 on perimeter defense rating back before I made that video, and they since like boosted him up a little bit more. But yeah, feel free to check that out if you're interested in like a full scout on Jordan Goodwin. For his career, only 49% true shooting, high energy defensive player, 2.4 steal percentage, and then for a guard, he's a phenomenal rebounder. 7.6 offensive rebound percentage. Where are the rebound rates on this quick edit menu? There we go. 7.6 offensive rebound percentage, and then 15.8 defensive rebound percentage for his career. He's essentially the NBA ready version of Bronny James, in that he's not a good offensive player, but high energy defensive player who crashes the glass. Probably ahead of Shake Milton in the rotation. Honestly, Milton could probably be waived. They don't need him. He's just a poor man's, like a broke man's version of Austin Reeves, who is a broke man's version of Luka. So they just need more defense on the perimeter. So I think Goodwin's a great pickup for him. This is his last year of two-way eligibility. As far as the rest of the Lakers, Roy Hachimura was the number 2 guy in scoring, 24 points. Dorian Finney-Smith got the start with LeBron out. I did change his position to small forward. This is like the first time that DFS and Rui were playing together. Obviously, they didn't have Mark Williams for this one, so it was the Jackson Hayes show. And it's going to be the Jackson Hayes show. He's the worst starting center in the NBA by a country mile, and they don't have a backup for him. Both of them are sidelined with injury. Who knows if Christian Wood is going to play at all this year? He was supposed to be back already from his knee surgery, so I wouldn't expect much from him when he is back. Maxi Kleber is probably out for the rest of the regular season. And then they've got 2 guys on 2 ways. You would have to think that Christian Koloko is probably going to occupy one of their open roster spots. And then even if they waived Shake Milton, it would just be to give his roster spot to like Jordan Goodwin for the playoffs. So I don't know what the Lakers are going to do. Maybe they could just cut bait on Christian Wood since he's not healthy and has an expiring contract, and then bring in a center who actually can take the court. There's Lonnie Walker, unemployed still. Well, not unemployed. He's in Europe, but still waiting for his NBA call-up. There aren't a ton of options on the center market. James Wiseman out for the season. It's really between Daniel Tice and Mo Bamba. Daniel Tice is probably the better player overall, but Mo Bamba he's got a 7'10" wingspan, and that might be more in line with what Luka wants. He is also a little bit younger. So this one is if they're just focused on this season. Maybe Mo Bamba has like the slightest bit of upside. I don't know if like Luka can work his magic and turn him into like a viable player. It hasn't worked yet. He's already played for like 3 or 4 teams already in his career. Should they give JaVale McGee a call? McGee hasn't played at all this season. Has really played like 300 minutes a year for the last couple of years. Last playing with the Kings last season. Obviously has history playing with the Lakers and also played with the Mavericks with Luka Doncic before. It's not like the worst idea in the world, but also not a great one. And then the Pacers, Miles Turner didn't play in this game, so Thomas Bryant got the start. It kind of maybe explains a little bit of why Reeves went off. They didn't have any rim protection back there. Otherwise, a standard game for them. Siakam had 23, Halliburton 19 and 9, but they just couldn't stop Austin Reeves, RIP, Andrew Nemhart. Heading over to the Atlanta Hawks, they beat the Wizards 125 to 111. Trae Young had 35 points, 14 assists. Pretty good game for him. Obviously, the Wizards don't have much in the way of defense or point guard play. George Niang got the start in this one. Oh gosh, he's not even on the top 10 players on this team, but he had 16 points. He gives them shooting at the four that they haven't had. They're obviously very thin at the four with Jalen Johnson sidelined for the rest of the season, and then Caris LeVert and Terrence Mann, they both made their debuts. LeVert had 9 points. Mann had 4 points. Meh. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about the Hawks. They're just kind of hanging in there, going for the 9th and 10th. They don't have to do much to make the play-in because the rest of the teams underneath them are just so bad, like the Wizards, for example. Jordan Poole had 21 points and 6 assists in this one. He's been pretty good of late. Bub Carrington had one of his better games. 23 points, 7 assists, 9 of 13 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. That might even be the best offensive game that he's played of his career, at least efficiency-wise. Koulibaly added 17 and 7, although he was 7 of 20 from the field. Justin Champagnie got the start as Kaishan George had the night off. And then Richaun Holmes, I need to work on his rating, which I said yesterday, but they played a back-to-back, so bear with me. He had 10 points and 8 rebounds. He'll probably be up in like the 75 range once I get a chance to take a look at him. Alex Sarr has been sidelined for the last 2 weeks with injury. And they also waived Alex Len so that he could sign with the Pacers. So Tristan Vucevic is going to be in their rotation. I will have to get his rating up. I'm really looking forward to spending a couple of like 30 minutes or so of my day today updating the centers on the Washington Wizards. Really exciting Sunday I'm about to have. Heading on over to the Orlando Magic. They beat the Spurs 112 to 111. Franz Wagner had a big one, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Apollo Banchero, not so big one, 17 points, 7 of 17 from the field. And then Anthony Black, he had probably the most efficient game of his career, 20 points, 8 of 9 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3. I did drop Apollo Banchero a couple points in this one, as it's been clear that Franz Wagner is the clear number one on this team. Banchero, he had a really big start to the season, but he hasn't looked himself at all since coming back from injury. So I dropped his overall rating by 3 points to an 87. This essentially takes him out of my All-NBA tier, which is 90 to 94 overall. The power forwards in that range are Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr. So Banchero definitely a tier below that in like the all-star range, all-star caliber tier. So the attributes that I dropped for him, draw foul, I dropped by 4 points. I basically dropped all of his shooting ratings by like 2 or 3 points. His free throw rating, he's only at 63% on the season. Was it 73% last year? So 10-point drop. And that is on like a pretty reasonable sample. He's taken over 100 free throws. So I dropped that to 66, like 7 points or so. 81 offensive rebound rate is his rebound rate is higher than it was. I'm sorry, defensive rebound rate. His rebound rate's higher than it was last year, but it was higher at the start of the year than it is now, so I dropped that by 5 points. His shot IQ, he's got a 50 true shooting percentage on like a 32 usage, I want to say. That is not good. That's Russell Westbrook territory, baby. So we dropped him to an 80 shot IQ, -5. And then his offensive consistency, that is a -24. I had this maxed out at the start of the year, but offensive box plus minus, which is one of the stats that I use to help me calculate offensive consistency, down to a 0.7, so just slightly above average for an NBA player. Obviously, his shooting efficiency has a lot to do with that. He isn't really getting by anybody offensively. He doesn't have that crazy first step right now. I don't want to touch too much onto his athleticism ratings. Obviously, he's only 21 years of age, so he's going to, as he works his way back, that will come back. But right now, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him because he's not blowing by guys. He's just kind of trying to go through them. Also worth noting, this kind of is important. I use intangibles. I actually have a scale for it, unlike 2K Sports. So I dropped this to a 90. Basically, my grading system is kind of similar to like my tier system for like the overall ratings. I would put Bancaro not as like a like all time great like Hall of Fame level of player. He's just looking like he's like an all star level of player. So rather than having him at a 99, I've got him back down at a 90 as he hasn't had the growth in his third year that I kind of that a lot of people anticipated that he would. Heading over to the Spurs. They Victor Wembanyama's had a lot of growth this year, but he had an okay game. But the main guys were Devin Vassell, 25 points, 11 of 14 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3. Harrison Barnes had 21 points, 7 of 10 from the 3-point line. De'Aaron Fox was quiet, 9 points, 9 assists, only 3 of 11 from the field. Obviously, he was setting up the shooters in this one. And then Wemby, 19, 9, and 4 assists, 4 steals, 4 blocks. Solid overall game all around, but they didn't get the point guard play that they otherwise would have liked to see. Lost this one by a point. I didn't get to see the tape of like how things went down in the fourth quarter or whatnot, but they are probably not going to make the playoffs, even though they traded for an all-star level of point guard. Minnesota Timberwolves, they beat the Blazers 114-98, even though they were without Anthony Edwards. Julius Randle's still out until roughly the All-Star break with his injury. So it was up to Jaden McDaniels to step up and have a career-high 30 points in this one. Nickeil Alexander-Walker also stepped up. He had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. And then Jalen Clark, out of nowhere, he made his debut recently. I guess let me actually activate him. He'd been in the G League for most of the year. He had 11 points in this one, which I assume is his career game. I didn't look at like his. I didn't even realize that he was active and playing. So that goes to show that probably is his career night so far. He had 11 points in 32 minutes, so I'll probably take a look at him, get him above the 70 threshold. And then the Trailblazers, not really much to discuss with them. Like they lost, they got blown out by a shorthanded Minnesota team. So I mean, they did nothing at the trade deadline. It's been like a lost 2 years for them. Anthony Simons, he had 21 points. He probably is a little disappointed he didn't get traded. And then DeAndre Ayton, like he had a whack game with like 2 for 6 from the field. Denny Avdia is really the 3 forward alignment of they starting Simons at the 1, and then they have Jeremy Grant, Avdia, and Timoni Kamara at the like I don't know which one's this 2 guard. You could argue it's Avdia, you could argue it's Kamara, but Avdia never plays well in those alignments. He's really better at like the 3-4. And he shot 1 of 8 in this one, so it's like kind of back to the beginning of the season. He had kind of worked his way back up to an 80 overall. He'll probably end up dropping once I reevaluate him. Looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they beat the Memphis Grizzlies 125-112. Chet Holmgren did not play as it was back-to-back, so Shea had 32 points, 8 assists. Aaron Wiggins, he's been hot of late. He's somebody whose rating I am going to have to address shortly. He had 26 points, 11 rebounds, hit 8 threes. Alex Caruso got the start as Lou Dort was also out. And then the Memphis Grizzlies, not really a ton to say. Desmond Bane came back from injury. He had 20 points in this one. And then Vince Williams also came back. He was his second game back from injury, so good to see the Grizzlies. Wow, their top 10 players, not a single one of them is injured. Obviously, they traded Marcus Smart to the Washington Wizards, although Smart had actually made not his debut, but he had returned from injury the day before the All-Star break. So the no longer the hospital Grizzlies. The only guys that are out for them are Marvin Bagley, who they got back in the Smart trade. Who knows if he'll even stick with the team? They might just end up waiving him, and then Cam Spencer in the G League, who is actually probably going to be back soon. So, wow, the Grizzlies made it. They made it. It only took them 2 years to get through all the injuries. The Golden State Warriors, they beat the Bulls 132-112. Jimmy Butler made his debut. 25 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 of 12 from the field, 11 of 13 from the free throw line. He looked like he had fresh legs after his month or so off. He got to eat up some absolutely atrocious Bulls defenders in Josh Giddey, Kevin Huerter and Matas Buzelis. So pretty easy game for him. Obviously, the Warriors coasted in this one. At the very least, the number 11 West team is way better than the number 10 East team. They're going to have a tall mountain to climb to make the playoffs, but they're probably a playoff team again. Steph Curry also chipped in 34 in this one. And then Quinton Post, who I probably need to get into their top 10 players, he was converted to a standard contract, and he had 18 points and hit 4 threes. He's been an absolute revelation for the Warriors. Trace Jackson Jr., who started most of the, or not Jr., Trace Jackson Davis, who started most of the season, he is now completely out of the rotation. He played a couple garbage time minutes in this one. The Boston Celtics, they had some garbage time minutes in this one. They trounced the New York Knicks at the Garden, 131 to 104. Jason Tatum had his best game in weeks with 40 points on 13 of 26 from the field, 7 of 14 from the three-point line. Peyton Pritchard, he had 25 points and hit 6 threes, as Jrue Holiday had the night off. And then Kristaps Porzingis, he had the night off. He didn't get to torture the Knicks. So instead, it was left to Knick legend Luke Kornet, who got the start and was 7 of 7 from the field with 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks. I still can't believe that he re-signed with them on a minimum contract. He's pretty good. And then for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, he had another big one with 36 points over his last 13 games, averaging 30 points, 7 assists, 53% from the field, 43% from 3. Worth noting that 2K Sports has him rated equally to guys like Trae Young, etc. I have him pretty firmly in the, he's like the top, he's my number 3 point guard after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. I don't think it's remotely close. I would not put him in the same category as guys like Fox, Young, etc. But he's really stepped up over the last month or so. And a big reason why he's had to step up is Karl Anthony Towns. He had a really disappointing game in this one. 9 points on 3 of 8 shooting over Cat's last 9 games. He's averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds, shooting 44% from the field, only 30% from 3. He also he did not play due to 2 games prior to that due to injury, which is also part of the Brunson why Brunson has had to step up. He's been affected by a thumb injury that he's playing through, so that's why he's quote unquote slumping. And the Knicks, they can't afford to sit him. They don't have any particular depth, so he's just got to gut through it. And that's why it's such a luxury to have a point guard of Jalen Brunson's level who can play that larger offensive role while Cat kind of gets himself back into, as that thumb heals. OJ Anunoby, he is out until the All-Star break. And Mitchell Robinson, he's targeting March 1st is when he's going to debut. Finally, we have a target date for Mitchell Robinson. So Precious Achiuwa got the start at the 4 with what's his name with Anunoby out of the lineup. So Josh Hart moving down to the 3. So they absolutely need Towns to keep playing and play heavy minutes. They don't have anything else in the front court. They traded Jericho Sims to save a little bit of tax money. I'm not sure if that allows them to use their 15th roster spot, as they haven't filled that all year because of because of apron concerns and whatnot. So it's they just holding on for that break for Mitchell Robinson. Let's head on over to the Denver Nuggets, who won their 5th straight game, beating the Phoenix Suns 122 to 105. Another typical Joker performance, 26, 11, and 9. Jamal Murray, 30 points, 6 threes. He's been playing a lot better. Julian Strawther, he got the start. I guess it's worth noting that Russell Westbrook has been out for the last couple of games, so Julian Strawther got the start. He had 18 points and 4 threes, so he'll probably be somebody who goes up the next time I reevaluate him. And then the Phoenix Suns, they were on a back-to-back. Devin Booker had 47 the night before, but he had 24 points in this one. Not enough with KD and Beal still sidelined. KD missed his 3rd game in a row. Beal 2, his 2nd in a row. Typically, by the way, in my roster, after a player misses his 3rd consecutive game, that's when I will deactivate them and apply an injury to them. So that's why KD is injured in my roster, but Beal is not. Bol Bol, he had a season high 19 points and 7 rebounds, and this is after having his season high of 12 points in the previous game. So he's back on the map. He doesn't really get run when KD is healthy. I'm gonna have to look at him if he does it again. He's kind of like one of the ultimate garbage time players. Um, but yeah, they don't have a ton in the front court otherwise to fill in for KD. It's certainly somebody that they're going to need if they are going to make a push for the playoffs, play in, whatever they're going for this year. Certainly not a championship. The Sacramento Kings, they beat the Pelicans 123 to 118. Seems like a pretty good game. Would like to replay it. Zach LaVine, he played his third game with the Kings, had 22 points. Domantas Sabonis, 27, 16, and 2. He fouled out as Zion Williamson had a pretty big game. And Jake LaRavia, he made his debut for the Grizz had 7 points in 12 minutes off the bench. And then Zion, he had 40 points in one of his best games of the season. 16 of 21 from the field, 8 for 11 from the free throw line. CJ McCollum had a good one, 31 points, had 6 threes. Trey Murphy, 20 points. I like when Zion is healthy. I really like the Pelicans. It's just that he's never healthy. It's such a bummer that like DeJounte Murray went down with his Achilles thing, as it kind of knocks them out for next season as well. So even though they finally broke up like the Ingram, like I love their core of 5 players and not having Ingram. I really like going from Ingram and turning him into Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. And it's just for this season they're too far behind the 8 ball to make any type of run, and then for next year the lack of Murray is just like, man, like is it really going to be 2 years before Zion's going to be 26 at that point? I don't know if like he'll still be with the Pelicans at that point. This is going to be one of those all-time like, man, what if teams. I guess worth noting that Brown and Olynyk have yet to make their Pelicans debuts. Heading over to the Clippers, they blew out the Jazz, 130 to 110. Ivica Zubac had 26 and 15, 13 of 16 from the field. Basically beat up on a G League front court. We'll get to that in a second. James Harden chipped in 23 points and 17 assists. Most of those probably going to Zoo, although Norman Powell also had 26 points. So the Clippers, who did they signed Ben Simmons off the buyout market. So I think that's going to be a solid addition. James Harden and Ben Simmons join forces. Daryl Morey's worst nightmare. 76ers are going to be rooting against this team for sure in the playoffs. But oh, and there's also the Paul George connection there too. Wow. Yeah, I actually like Simmons' addition for this team. Kind of feels like the similar role that like Chris Dunn does, just like 7 inches taller. Based on like their depth chart, I think he's probably going to play maybe more at the 4, as like you can get behind him as a Derek Jones type, a Derek Jones Jr. type, like Nick Batum. Like I don't know, I'm really curious. But I think he's a great fit because the Clippers were already the number 2 defense in the league, and just like imagine Kawhi Leonard's at the 3, and then Ben Simmons is the point of attack defender. Also, like they're just have such like crazy length out there. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully that Ben Simmons can stay healthy enough in order for that to happen, along with Kawhi. But let's finish off with the Utah Jazz. Mercifully, I don't know what to say about them. Johnny Juzang made his return from injury and had 19 points. That's really the only nice thing I can say. They once again gave their starting front court the night off. They benched. They have regularly been benching Markkanen, Collins, and Kessler all at the same time. Like, do they do this on road games or something? I don't really understand it. It was the second night of a back-to-back, but these guys are under 30 years old. So they end up starting Svi, Micah Porter at the 4, and then Kyle Filipowski at the 5, which is a pretty, like, I mentioned before that Zoo had a big night. Like, yeah, who's going to stop him there? It's a G League front court. And it's February. This degree of tanking that the Jazz are doing isn't getting talked enough about in the media. I think partially because it's number one, it's Utah, so who cares? And number two, it's not a hotbed topic of discussion for this season because otherwise this is like one of the all-time tank jobs where like these guys aren't even like hurt and they're because they're not whatever policy that the NBA has, I forget what it's called, the player participation policy. Because these guys aren't all stars, I guess Markkanen actually is. I wonder if they're why they're not docking them or like investigating him. Like they have to show a legitimate injury for him, right? I just don't get it. All right, this video went on quite a while. It was a pretty big night to go over. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you think there's any players that you think I need to focus on leading up to the All-Star break. Otherwise, I'll check you guys later. Going to try to have another one of these tomorrow. Peace out. Thanks.